Talking.
네, 할라게 거데 뭐 때문에 이거 그 그게 오더 다르다클레 로로서 서카 lo edo sagi sawa weda pagno pola ko klodot benya do kwe musiko do beti oscar la mi weda pagno tu kita pwa daga no la klo so the paso me kwa la klo so lo me ya shi klo so lo loki ko ne da hanya I awe ko do kwa kete pya wala ta le khoplo lo agar khane ka sai sawa weda poli la o la ko america mi ge ko norway mi ge ko tuli ko la mi ge ni no pa ta khu do tu lu mo ni lo no do pa pwa ru mi kia ga ne no po se ko do pa tini no pa dra tini la mi weda Kawthoolei Today director dot hanya I awe has ko level ka ma weda ta sai sawa ni lo no aso ne bagati kwa so weda pati oscar no le ati ti kita pia bua le no sara wenda le koplo puko do awe keke ne no na o le ko america state pele do na mamnu le agi puko mo me
So you have to excuse me. Yakatopaknya te adiba yakema yamalo. So I have to apologize for not being able to speak my mother tongue. Um, I came to United States in 1968. I was single, Pudakwala, and I was very fortunate that I happened to go and work for an engineering company and build a brick factory in Moby, Burma. So after 6 months, they offered me the position to come to their headquarters in Houston, Texas. So at that time, Ne was already in power and Burma was already going downhill. So my mother said, "Go, son, go." And so I applied for a visa and a passport, but the Burmese government would not give me a passport right away. Finally, after 14 months, they said, "Well, if you want to leave, leave, but don't come back." So they never gave me a passport. They just gave me a piece of paper that tells me that I have permission to leave. So they call it C of I, Certificate of Identity. And with that piece of paper and just a few books, engineering books, I left Burma. And the company that I worked for, called Interkiln, did all the paperwork and gave me the American visa. So they were very kind. And then they worked hard to give me a green card. So I've never applied for citizenship because my hope is that I will be back in Kawthoolei. So that's been 53 years ago. And here I am now. I'm finally uh, applying for citizenship through a good friend of mine who I mentored. He was from Backlaw, and I met him when he came to this country, and I met him in St. Paul, Minnesota, where he had where we have nearly 10,000 Karen refugees there. I volunteered there when I took early retirement in 2004 when I turned 62. And that's where I started my volunteer work with Man Roberts. He and I went around different Karen cities to uh, form Karen Association. One of the cities that we went to was Akron, Ohio in 2007. And shortly after 2007, I went, I heard about the Karen Unity Seminar in 2000. So I went to Bangkok, and from Bangkok, I went to Mae South, and there I met up with David Takapo, and we were friends in college, even though he was senior to me, and I had the privilege of attending the Karen seminar in Thuke Nui. So uh, that is how my first contact with the Karen refugees, and I saw for myself how the what a pitiful conditions our Karen refugees had to live. I visited Onpian. I also visited Nopal, and because I couldn't speak Karen when I was in the refugee camp, they called me Pukalawa. Uh, well, I took it as a privilege to meet my Karen people and an honor to be called Pukalawa. So when I came back, uh, there was I did not know, but I had been interviewed by Kalawa uh, journalists, and without my knowledge, it my interview appeared in Seattle Times. I only knew about it because my daughter told me that that my account, my interview, showed up in the Seattle Times magazine, and that's when the Karens in Akron found out too. And then they called me. I don't know how they got a hold of me, but I was in Canada, Coquitlam at that time, and they asked me, please come and help us in Akron because the organization that is supposed to be helping them was treating our Karen people. So I flew to Akron. I think maybe I've taken the bus to Akron, and I arrived there June the 2nd, 2008. And that's when I started working with the Karens in Akron uh, till 2017. And then my daughter called me, told told me that um, mommy was sick. So I went back to Bellingham, Washington, and there uh, stayed there till my wife passed away. In fact, and so and then this young man that I met in St. Paul, his name is Morix Moo, was in Omaha, Nebraska. He invited me to come over there because he was going to go to South Dakota. And I have my cousin from Tumhin. She is P. Tutu, uh, daughter of my my uncle Onse. She was the le Tumhin when he Jothramu, Joku, the school principal there. So we went. I stayed with them for a month, and then when they came back to visit Omaha, and I went back to Omaha. I had been in Omaha till about a month ago, and uh, then this young man that would just help me set up here, he came to pick me up because he found out that I have a house to sell in Akron, and he's a mechanic, and I felt that house because it has a 5-car garage would be just right for him to open a mechanic shop. So that's how I got to Akron. and I'm here in Akron, and I probably will stay here to fix the house up so that they can move in. And after that, I will probably go back to Omaha, Nebraska, because there are many refugees there that could still that I could still assist. And this brings me up to date now. Uh, is there anything else that you would like me to tell you?
Yeah, you chumo mo you think what a color no where pen he all go America chagaton no but it's in you not live America put it on the recognize the corner live Burmese no yeah pami gonna live pami recognize pami gonna live Burmese ne how do you respond there
Uh, I don't quite understand your question. How did I get the permit to come to United States?
me he all USA chagaton wa but it's but no live America put it no Kolawa ya domo Kolawa ne ko na le Burmese mana ati te tinga na le ke kwa kanyawa te tinga na le ne ke kwa kanyawa ka recognize na ka choku mana le ne ke Burmese ko na le Burmese mana he ko na choku to chane ne ba mi recognize na choku to chane dine to mana na te ga ne respond na tu ba na respond uta ne mana
I'm afraid my Korean knowledge is very limited. But from what I can make out of it, you want to know if see I was very fortunate. I did not plan to be honest, I did not plan. I never had any plans. I did never in my mind thought that I would be in America. It just so happened. I don't know how to say the word in Korean, but in English it's called synchronicity. Things just happen to evolve in such a way that I happened to go work for that American company. Before that, I didn't even know about that company. I was working for PwC, which in Burmese it is called Palaka. Uh, I don't know how to say that in Burmese. Palaka is, I think it's Sao. Is that right? Sao La? No. Sao Sao Lo Ye. Is that right in Burmese? Sao Lo Ye. Pizu Sao Lo Ye Palaka. Pizu Lo. I don't know. I was in Burmese. They call me. I graduated from RIT, which is an engineering school, in 1964, and I had a cousin who was already an EE. What do they call EE in Burmese? Executive engineer. I think they call it. I don't know. Anyway, when I graduated, I wasn't even thinking of working. But right after graduation, Koko Gilki Mo with my cousin's husband, uh, Uncle Potu's daughter's Molly Too's husband, said we need a position to fill. We need a position for what do they call AE in Burmese? They call it a wundao. So right after graduation, after a week or two after graduation, I became a wundao, and I went to work under him as I think EE is called a yebai. Maybe it is a yebai. So and the my assignment was right back at RIT because that's where Gogo Gilkey, his area was. RIT was part of this, and I happened to be the to represent him at RIT. And now, while I was there at RIT, um, someone called me and told me that this American company called Interkin is looking for a quality control engineer because they have a contract with the Burmese government to build a brick factory in Moby. So the interview was set up on a Friday, and they want to know how soon I can join them. Uh, I don't know. Later on, I found out that a person that I knew when I went to Sunday school in the Emmanuel Baptist Church knew about me and informed them, told them about me, and they asked them to call me. So that's how I ended up with the interview on a Friday. And over the weekend, I called uh, Gilkey and told them about that interview. And he said, go. I won't stop you. If you want to join that company, that is fine with me. So the following Monday, uh, I went I left PwC, Palaka, and I joined up with Intercam. And when uh, people in Palaka at RIT found out that I was going to go to Moby, three of the Kuligao, one from the carpenter, Karen leader of that uh, mm, I guess Lethama is carpenter, and one Chinese head of the carpentry gang, and then an Indian uh, uh, head of the masonry. Masonry, what is it called? Masonry. Um, I don't know how to say masonry in Burmese. Uh,
looking
uh,
maple.
Anyway, they said, "Can we join you? Can we come and work with you?" Because they enjoyed working with me. So I said, "I am not in a position to hire. I am not working for Palaka. I cannot hire you, but I'll see what I can do." So when I got to Moby, I talked to the Burmese executive EE there, and he says, "Of course, they need people because it's a new outfit." And so through them, I was able to get these three people to join to work at the Palaka in Moby. Even though I'm not their direct employer, they were they worked for Palaka in Moby, so they joined me there. And after working for them for 6 months, they offered me the position in United States. So that's how I got to United States. Um, is that what you asked? How I got to United States?
Me pu aware me patinya learn head to le ko America aklo dile do pe do tikwana le pen head to le ko America sa to ni kwa ariko ni tinya na le Burmese pa yo kwa me ko na le Burmese ni how do you respond or react?
No. Well, when I came, I made it clear that I am not Burmese uh, because I've seen so much oppression by the Burmese on our Karen, because even though I lived in Rangoon, I when 1949 in January, we could I could see from my veranda from Rangoon, the Alone Karen quarters was burnt, so I could see all the fire going up, the smoke coming up, and the Karen quarters in Alone was pretty much they tried to burn it down too. And then in January, when our home in the country, at that time we also had a house in the country called in the mine, Kaweja. that also was burned down by Ne Win guerrilla enemy. They burned the entire Kawejan down. Not a blade of grass was left. And very soon, uh, our relatives from Insin, Tongzugong, they were made refugees, and about 50 of them came to look for shelter in Rangoon. Fortunately, uh, we had a big house, but even that big house was not enough because there were more than 50 people that crowded. So my father was able to find a temporary shelter at Port Commissioners on the flat rooftop. So just like the refugees in Backlaw, we had to use plastic sheets for cover, and many of the Koreans were herded into a concentration camp in Royal Lakes. I think they call it Kandoji in Burmese, and many of our Koreans were incarcerated there. My uncle, my father's older brother, died, never got out of the concentration camp. He died there. His oldest son, who was 17 at that time, joined the Korean Revolution in the Insin battle, and he was. We did not know whether he was alive or dead for about 2 years. His sister came and stayed with us and continued schooling in Rangoon. And we heard that the Koreans were very victorious. They had almost got to within 6 miles of Rangoon, but the Burmese asked for a ceasefire, and our KNDO forces agreed. But the Burmese were very treacherous. Uh, if the Koreans had pushed on, they would easily have captured Rangoon, but our Koreans were very naive, didn't know didn't know too well about the treachery of the Burmans. So, and then I think the British, in spite of us being loyal to them, they turned on us and instead helped the Burmese get ammunition from India. And so that's where we lost our Korean Revolution. And then I saw all the atrocities that was committed on our Koreans. So I was dead set on not being a Burmese. Even when they try to call me, we usually say saw Oscar, and then they would put ooh saw Oscar. I said no, don't you call me ooh. I am not Burmese. Uh, I resisted, and I let I let the Americans know that I may be from Burma, but I am not Burmese. And ever since 2004, um, when I volunteered to assist our Korean people, I deliberately wore Korean outfit even before I went to St. Paul, Minnesota. Everybody in Bellingham would see me walking around in Wakano Seku your dog Wakano Seku. So I just wanted to make it a point that I am Korean. But I did not know how bad the Korean uh, refugee status was till I met the Koreans in Vancouver, Canada in 1997. And about that time, also a classmate of mine, his name is Eugene Tsai, the son of So Sui Tsai, the first president of Burma. He also had joined the resistance to Niue army, I think as early as 1960. So he also got asylum in Canada, and I got to meet him, and he told me about his experiences, and so that's how I came to know about the plight of our Karen people there. And I also assisted the Karen that arrived in Canada because Bellingham is closer to Vancouver than it is to Seattle, Washington. So I usually spend my weekend in. I was still working then, so while I did not retire yet at that time in 1997, I assisted the Karen there in Seattle, Washington. So there were people from Dr. Cynthia. There was a young man who was a nurse at Dr. Cynthia's hospital in Meta, which I got to visit later on when I visited Mesa. And then in Mesa, I think that's where I met David Takapo. And then from Mesa, I went to uh, Mepa area, and then I got uh, to Becklaw, which is Mela, and that's where I met. I think I heard about KSNG, and I teamed up. That's where I think I heard about KSNG and no Kawthoolei Lapo.
Me W awed agar kane per edo tikwana le kikaine per tinya le na tani go kwasili ahune le na tani kwasine no tale ne edo ma do ne edo kono ne hisa kiwada bu kwa kwa nyo dir pamono na kete ba pora le na tani kwachi shula kine ne edo ma mu dir pale mo le bu kwa nyo po wan.
Yes, God willing, Dios volante, we say in Latin, God willing. When I turn 80, it is my desire to team up with KED, and I heard through Yahalele La that a memorial college has been opened up in Suke year, which is I think it is also called as Mutro area. So it is my hope that I could work under KED leadership to help in whatever capacity I can with their education department. Also, I had some conversations with um, I think he is also a chokehold somewhere in Becklaw. I think his name is Bill William. Uh, he also encouraged me to come and assist them and volunteer. I, I believe, I think he is also under KED. I'm very impressed with what KED is doing. When I visited Becklaw in 2008, I was very impressed with the the ability of what KED. I think KED is doing a better job than even the Burmese education department. So I give them kudos for that. And that's one thing that our current people need is good education. And hopefully, I would like to share the engineering knowledge that I had, the basic engineering like surveying, which would be very useful in road building. So if I can share my knowledge with the young current people, I would be very honored to teach our young that to share that knowledge with them.
Me W do malono kayine edo tiko da tini mono ko community hanya idi amioda talo atoni no o ko da citizen ba le nyon ni ba nyo po tu pha ba chari so wa la ta no ba chari so wa lo ba ta le ta la nya I ake da la le mi da ta tu pi ta nyo la a ko ne chini ke te ba bwa nyo po le ko America te pha tu ko citizen ba ni mo tu ma mu le lo de awe traditionally mo no le la ni tu ma mu le do awe tu ke territory di le mo no
me na table do ma we pa ga nya pho nyon ni mo na po de pu na awe lo sa pa ga nya pho le all Asia me thor pa ne me da la December thor sa le basa me pa ga nya pho le all US te pa ne me da le na ya sweet December mo na pa ga nya ko da double did do turn na le ka o cost sweet December basa na ke ba se pa na ne ka le ta pita ma ko na to cost sweet December ba basa na ke ne na me ya ne jika majalah ne jika o da chai jika o da paganyal US ne nyan ne kwa Facebook na ko ne betinya ta ki ba sa le spet haleta kamar o pasa na kine pame kwale tabuta bar khone ke we phelo te chikina re chota ne paganya pho te ga le ta suta na da we mo tabuta ba da we ne ada ta kine le thola zro so mo but ko ba ko ywa na no me paganya pho le ke we ba ko te phane tu pisa nya khu do ba o se ko ra do la na ba ne phasu di se de of ko tu pisa nya ko mu do ma na ko ne ba ke we ta tu pisa nya le paganya pho ga le tradition pa ne na ta le po le de ko me ge po le cha ko me ne phasu wi sa se na ko ne pa lu la thu no se phai ne na me ta la mu do ma ge do ma ye sem la le paganya pho pu ne ma pasu ta sa pe na ge na pa su pisa nya ko mo pata su tha sa he pata thodi thoda se phane su to ol phasa pu ge na par ga ge le pata su tha sa he me o ba pula sa ne phela la di sab o khala di sab hanya ne ma pa pla la ta tak ma pa ka chakra ma sa sa na pa ki ge ba la sa pa chi la pata le awe positive ona pa ki ge ba la ta pa ki ku pa ko ma chalo sa ti sa me po pa nya po pe e pa le ko pe e tu ti tu mu pa dal la thu su no se phane ma pa sit ma la ma ri ma na le pa Kawthoolei Today khasa ye che so wa ba ka nya pho pu le la ko da be nya mon se ko su pi sa nya la ti se ba pu da ka ba ta su so wa ko di ko de mana table
no me apu kata me ya ne no da hanya yin yo ko citizen ne no ya ho da ta kuita mo no ta kui wa da lo de pa tho de ta so mo apo ne ke ko pa ma life me lo de pa ko opya tu mo no awe le no we ko ne na ke ad ke de le all refugee camp le de wa bu ne pa ma o da pa klo da mi klo no pa ma o da mi klo do pa ko pa ku da pa lo da blo do pa to da mi to pi dir pha no ake da ki nyo pho lu la khom ne ta tu pi ta nyo la di ni no pa se so wa lo ba do pa no hi lo da la ta ta audit pha no da ba ta no upload ge da ba ta no mi to pi ge da ba ta no ko do pi ta mi ge no awa hugla ti a po ko lo hugla ti mo kho ti dir pha ge mo no ake da ta all talanya I pa choi chawa do awe tu pi ta nya to ko no lo pati Oscar ne no awe ke sari sawa pwa do ke te bya wala ta le khoplo le talanya I ne no pa kwa nya pho te pha ke cha da wa ta le khoplo mi ta mun le do awe ke sari sawa apho li se mo no to le ko ma video da pata te to ko na nya ma
It is a pleasure. It is a privilege to have come to meet both of you. I never expected to see any of you. In fact, I just met Teeny a couple of days ago, and I never expected to see um, Kawthoolei Lapo either. But um, the avenue has opened up for me to spend when I go back. I hope to be in the land where I should be, and I consider it a privilege to serve my people to the last of my breath. That is my pleasure.
tablu no ati tablu do ma kai ne bwa arke se sawa ati do pa me kwa le comment mo no ati ke ro do ite ba Doma le bo kwa nya po te pha le pa me o ta lo te pula la da le no pa me pa sa ni be te lo ba mo no ka me ne bo ko o ko su le ta lo te pula la mi ye ta le pa ma sa la pa sa te no ni pa si bu ba ki pe ti o sa le ata hi lo ta do ata e ba po ka le no le lu do ku do di ni no pa lo pa lo do ma do ata e po ka le te pha ni ko ba le o we ka nya po kwa de ni lo no le le pa ma wi ba ni no pa ko kwa wa da ta wi ta se so wa de you ta wi yi ni no ba ta ka te ka to do we do le the fox no awada pa ni wada le pa tra so pu o no la awe ta wi yi ni na pa pa ma ko wi wada pa ta kle ta hanya ni lo no ta pu ta sweet December
Bye bye.
Sweet December, sweet December, sweet December, sweet December. Sweet December, brothers, sweet December, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. Sweet December, sisters, sweet December, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. One voice is louder, louder, two voices louder, louder, three voices louder than before. Boom, boom, boom. Sweet December, brothers, sweet December, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. Merry Christmas, brothers, Merry Christmas, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. Merry Christmas, sisters, Merry Christmas, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. One voice is louder, louder, two voices louder, louder, three voices louder than before. Boom, boom, boom. Merry Christmas, brothers, Merry Christmas, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth. We wish you good luck, we wish you good luck and peace upon the earth.